Good morning, and welcome to Mattie Ernst's senior project, which is The Secret Garden. So a little introduction to the piece. Each character in the story is played by an instrument. So does anyone know the story of The Secret Garden? Do you guys know the main character? What's her name? Mary is the main character in The Secret Garden, and she is played by the oboe.
Another of the main characters in the story is Mary's cousin Colin, and he is played by the clarinet. And another one of Mary's friends, Dickon, as you may know, is a friend to all animals, and he is played by the viola.
My personal favorite character is the robin, and that is played by the flute.
And then, of course, there's old Ben Weatherstaff, the gardener, and he is played by the bassoon.
And we can't forget the most important character of all, the secret garden.
That's just a short intro of some of the characters, and now you'll meet the rest of the characters in our performance of The Secret Garden.
Mary Lennox was in a carriage riding through the English countryside.
I suppose I ought to tell you something of where you're going,
said the woman sitting next to her, whose name was Mrs. Medlock.
It's a queer place, Miss Manor. 100 rooms and they're nearly all locked. Mr. Archibald Craven, your uncle, owns the place. He won't bother with you. He's got a crooked back, and since his wife died...
Oh, did she die?
5–10 years ago, and since then he's been right miserable.
To India, where her ayah had raised her while her parents went to parties and met with important people. No one had ever bothered with her, and now her parents had died after disease had struck.
Now don't expect anyone to talk to you. There are gardens and grounds, but you'll have to take care of yourself, and you're not to go poking about in the house.
I shall not want to go poking about.
We're nearly there now. We're just to ride across the moor.
Is that the sea? It sounds like
That's
it.
just the wind blowing in the bushes.
I don't like it.
next day, Mary awoke in a large room, gloomy and ornate, and a young girl was lighting the fire.
Are you my servant?
I'm Mrs. Medlock's servant, but I'll be waiting on you a bit.
Who's going to dress me?
You cannot dress yourself.
Of course not. My Aya used to dress me. Mary thought back to India and how different life was here in Yorkshire. And then she realized Martha was talking about her family.
There's 12 of us all together, all in one cottage on the moor. There's hardly any money, but we make do. They all play out on the moor every day. My brother Dickens even got a pony he found, and a fox too. You'd like it.
Mary much liked the sound of Dickon.
It's a nice enough day. You can run out and play outside. The garden's all that way. There aren't any flowers yet, but there will be soon enough. One of the gardens is locked, but the others are open.
Why is it locked?
Mr. Craven had it shut when his wife died. It was her garden. He locked the door and buried the key.
But then Mary had to run off, Martha had to run off, and Mary was left to find her own way outside. When Martha was gone, Mary went out into the gardens. There were shrubs in different shapes, but the flower beds were quite bare and wintry. She found a long walk overgrown with ivy, and there she saw a little robin.
Until she came upon a man who was digging in a bed of winter vegetables.
What is this place?
These are the kitchen gardens. I'm Benedict.
And what's over there?
Some orchards and other gardens.
There's a garden over there, but there's no door. There was a robin singing, but there was no door.
In there among the rose trees.
Are there rose trees? There must be a door somewhere.
Get gone, I've no more talk.
And Mary was left alone again.
The next day, it rained so hard Mary could not go outside. Martha suggested that she find a book to read in the library, but Mary decided to explore the house instead. Could there really be 100 empty rooms?
Mary searched the corridors, which branched off into even more corridors and staircases until she was quite lost. Everywhere she looked, there were portraits of gloomy-looking people in funny-looking clothes.
In one room, there were dozens of little ivory elephants. Mary had seen real ones in India, and she played with the ivory elephants for quite a while. In another room, there was a whole family of mice living in a cushion.
Perhaps this house isn't so empty after all.
She was making her way back to her room when she heard crying coming from somewhere nearby. All of a sudden, Mrs. Medlock came out of a door hidden behind a tapestry.
I heard someone crying.
You heard nothing of the sort. Now get back to your room.
Once Mary was back in her room, she thought, there was someone crying. There was. How many secrets this house has.
2 days later, Mary woke to the most magnificent day she had yet seen at Misselthwaite Manor. The sky was bluer than she had ever seen it, and the moor off in the distance was humming with life.
Mary ran out into the gardens around the fountain, and when she came to the kitchen gardens, found old Ben Weatherstaff working. Remembers me. Are things growing in his garden too?
You'd have to ask him. It's been shut up for 10 years.
Mary followed the robin as he led her down the wall.
What's this sticking out of the earth? It's a key. I wonder if it's been here for 10 years. Could it be the key to the garden? You showed me the key. Do you know where the door is also?
Just then, a strong gust of wind blew the branches of ivy away from the wall, and Mary saw a doorknob beneath the dark green leaves. The key turned inside the lock, and Mary opened the door into the secret garden.
It was the sweetest, most mysterious place anyone could imagine. The leafless stems of climbing roses clung to the high walls and hung from the trees in ghostly curtains. Everything was strange and silent, and Mary seemed to be hundreds of miles from anyone, and yet she did not feel lonely at all.
Mary went every day to the secret gardens. There were vines and trees overgrown everywhere, but they all seemed quite dead. When Mary did find some small green shoots sticking out of the earth, she moved aside the dead brush and grass so that they would have room to grow.
Perhaps it isn't all quite dead.
She was walking in the grounds one day when she saw a boy sitting against a tree with a great assortment of animals around him. I know you're Miss Mattie. I brought you some flower seeds. My sister Martha said you were looking for some.
Will you show them to me?
I can help you plant them if you wish. Where is your garden?
Can you keep a secret? I've stolen a garden. No one wanted it, and I've been taking care of it.
And so Mary took Dickon to the secret garden.
Is it all quite dead?
Some of it is old. But look here. These are as live as you or me.
They went from bush to bush, looking for the plants that were still alive. They uncovered more of Mary's green shoots and planted some of the seeds Dickon had brought.
When Mary got back to the manor, she was sent to Mr. Craven's study, for he had sent for her.
She saw that though his back was crooked and he looked miserable, he was not a hunchback like everyone had said.
Are you well? I should have sent you a nurse or a governess, but I forgot.
Please, sir, I'm too old for a nurse, and please don't make me have a governess yet. I've been running outdoors and playing in the gardens. I don't do any harm.
How could you do any harm? Is there anything you want? Toys or books?
Might I have a bit of earth to make things grow and come alive?
You may have as much earth as you want. You remind me of someone else who once loved to make things grow.
Mary could not fall asleep that night, but instead lay awake listening to the rain and the moaning of the wind.
It sounds as though someone is crying. I do believe it is someone crying. I am going to find them. Mary searched the corridors until she found the tapestry she had seen Mrs. Medlock come through earlier. Behind the tapestry was a passageway. At the end of the passageway was a big room with a very small person crying. He looked up as she approached.
Are you a ghost?
No, are you?
No, I'm Colin Craven. Mr. Craven is my father.
My name's Mary Lennox. Mr. Craven is my uncle. No one ever told me he had a son. Why were you crying?
Because my head ached. I am very ill. I am going to die. I sit in this room because I hate when people look at me. How old are you?
I'm 10.
Me too.
That's funny. The garden was locked up 10 years ago.
What garden?
Oh, just a garden your mother used to like. No one's allowed in.
I could order them to let us in. I wouldn't mind going outdoors to see a secret garden.
Please don't. Then it won't be a secret anymore.
Mary was afraid Colin would give away her secret.
It would be so much better if it was still a secret. I'll find the door on my own.
Never had a secret before.
The children continued to talk, and when Mary left, Colin made her promise that he would come back and visit her every day.
It was a few days afterwards, and Mary was working in the gardens with Dick. She had told him the story of finding Colin and visiting every day since.
He's always so scared of getting sick, and I hate the way he bosses everyone around. But he does seem to like me. Mrs. Medlock said he hasn't had a tantrum in nearly a week.
Oh, he's a troubled boy. He's got nothing to do stuck in that room except think about his poor, sickly self.
I was wondering if we mightn't get Colin out here into the garden. He could keep it a secret.
He'd be watching the springtime come on and the flowers grow instead of thinking about his poor, sickly self and looking for lumps on his back. I reckon it'd be better than the doctor's stuff.
The two children continued to plan Colin's excursion, wondering how they would convince him to come out. When Mary returned home, Martha was waiting for her.
Colin's in one of his tantrums, all right. No one can do anything to calm him. Well, he likes you. Why don't you come and try?
Mary went straight to Colin's bedroom. Mary felt Colin's back. There's not a lump, not even as big as a pin.
There isn't? Will I really live to grow up? I would love to see that secret garden if ever you found it.
Can you keep a secret? Dickon and I found the door to the secret garden.
Oh, hooray! Hooray! I would love to see. Will I really live to see the secret garden?
Of course you will.
I shouldn't mind going outdoors to see a secret garden.
Dickon and I will bring you out very soon. On the day Colin was to go out to the garden, he gathered together the staff of Misselthwaite.
I am going to go outside this afternoon. If the fresh air agrees with me, I may go out every day. No one is allowed to follow us, or be out in the grounds while we are there.
Mary thought he looked just like the young Rajas in India.
The children headed towards the long walk to the gardens, all the while telling Colin the story.
This is where I used to walk up and down and wonder what was on the other side. This is where the robin appeared to me and showed me the key. And this is where the ivy blew back and I saw the door. And Mary opened the door and Dickon pushed Colin through.
I shall get well, and I shall live forever and ever and ever. The children took Colin through every path of the garden, showing him the work they had done.
These roses were almost dead when we got here. And I planted those tulips all by myself.
Who is that man leaning over the wall?
It's Ben Weatherstaff!
What are you kids doing in here?
Do you know who I am, Ben Weatherstaff?
Of course I do. You're the cripple. But how are you here? Don't you have a crooked back and crooked legs?
No!
Colin gripped the arm of his chair and grabbed Dickon's arm and slowly stood up.
Just look at me. Don't tell a word of this to anyone. You must come in, for I wish to talk to you.
The children went every day to the secret garden, and Colin grew stronger and stronger until one day he decided to learn how to walk, for he had begun to speculate that there was magic there.
Mary knows about magic from India, and Dickon knows some because he charms animals. When Mary found the garden, nothing was growing, but look at it now. There is magic in me too, and it's making me well. Perhaps to start, you say over and over that nice things will happen, until you make them happen. growing. This is magic. The magic is in me. The magic is in me. The magic is in me. I'm going to try to walk.
He grabbed Dickon's arm and took each step very carefully. You can do it! You can do it! You can do it!
And slowly grew stronger and healthier.
While the garden was coming to life, and the children with it, Mr. Craven was off traveling in lonely places, thinking only of his own unhappiness and heartbreak. Until one night, he had a dream so real it did not feel as if he was dreaming at all.
Archie!
Lily? Lily, where are you?
In the garden.
I must return to Misselthwaite.
And he left immediately.
During his long journey, Mr. Craven thought about his wife, the garden she so loved, and the small boy who had her eyes. When he arrived at Misselthwaite, he went straight to the garden, but didn't know what to do. The key had been lost for 10 years.
Mr. Craven over. He looked up.
Father? I'm calling.
In the garden.
Yes, it was the garden that did it. Aren't you glad I'm going to live forever and ever?
The children showed Mr. Craven all the work they had done to bring the garden back to life.
Mattie. I wrote this music. Thank you all for coming. I hope you really enjoyed it.